Sometimes love blinds us to the truth, and the people we trust the most become the ones who wound us the deepest. This is the story of Odogwu, a man who had everything: success, comfort, and love, until betrayal crept quietly into his home. The woman he cherished turned against the one who gave him life. It's a story of pride, pain, and the heavy price that comes from ignoring a mother's warning. So sit back, relax, and let the story unfold. And if it touches your heart, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to support our channel. From the first day they met at the university, everyone knew Odogwu and Kemi were meant to be the talk of campus. He was calm, brilliant, and humble, the kind of man every lecturer praised and every student admired. She was stunning, bold, and outspoken, the kind of woman who turned heads the moment she entered a room. Their story began on a rainy afternoon in front of the Faculty of Social Sciences. Kemi had been struggling with her umbrella when a strong wind flipped it inside out, books scattered everywhere. Odogwu, passing by with a stack of files, bent quickly to help her. Their eyes met, and something quiet but powerful connected them. That day, a friendship started, one that grew faster than anyone expected. Before long, they became inseparable. They walked to lectures together, they ate together, they studied together, and during the annual cultural day, they even wore matching outfits. Kemi in a bright Ankara skirt, Odogwu in a shirt made from the same fabric. Students began calling them Mr. and Mrs. Ivory Hostel. You hardly saw one without the other. They laughed in the same rhythm. They dreamed in the same direction. But while many admired their closeness, some whispered behind them, "That girl Kemi, she's too proud for a quiet boy like Odogwu. She just likes him because he's brilliant and comes from a comfortable family." Odogwu heard the rumors and ignored them. He believed love could change anyone. When his friends teased him about Kemi's temper, he replied, "She's passionate, not proud. One day, you'll understand." He loved her sincerity, the way she spoke without fear, and how her laughter echoed across the courtyard. Kemi loved his stability. He never shouted, never raised a hand, never left her feeling small. Around him she felt safe, even when she pretended otherwise. Every Sunday evening, they sat under the old mango tree beside Ivory Hostel, sharing roasted corn and groundnuts from the roadside vendor. They talked about dreams. Odogwu's desire to work in an oil company, Kemi's hope to become a famous news anchor. She would say, "One day, you'll see me on TV reading the news," and he would reply, smiling, "And I'll sit with Mama back in the village watching you with pride." Whenever he mentioned his mother, his tones softened. "She's my everything," he'd say. "She sold vegetables to send me here. I can't wait for her to rest." Kemi would nod politely, but she didn't like how often her boyfriend spoke about his mother. To her, it sounded like a rival she could never outshine. Still, their relationship blossomed. Sometimes Kemi lost her temper over trivial things. When Odogwu advised her gently, she snapped, "Don't lecture me like a child." Then she would apologize later, promising to control her anger. Odogwu never held it against her. He believed love required patience. He believed the fire in her would someday burn brighter for good, not destruction. As exams drew near, life became busier. Still, they found time to walk together after evening lectures. Kemi talked about life after school, a big job, a nice apartment, a car. Odogwu talked about going home first to thank his mother for all her sacrifices. One evening, she leaned on his shoulder beneath the mango tree and whispered, "Do you think your mother will like me?" He smiled warmly. "Why wouldn't she? You're my heart, Kemi." Forced a laugh, hiding the unease that crept into her chest, because deep down, something told her that the day she finally met Mama Odogwu would not go as smoothly as she hoped. The following semester came with exams, late-night reading, and the quiet pressure of final year. Odogwu and Kemi were still together, still admired by many. To most people, they were the perfect couple, a symbol of campus love that conquered everything. But far away, in a small village in Anambra, an old woman packed a basket with love and care. Inside it were yams, gari, palm oil, and dried fish. She tied everything neatly with a white cloth and whispered a prayer over it. God, protect my son. Let this food nourish him. That woman was Mama Odogwu, a mother who had never stopped thinking about her only child. She missed him deeply. He hardly visited because of school, and the phone network in the village often failed. So she decided to surprise him. When she reached the university gate, she looked lost and tired. Her wrapper was faded, her slippers dusty from the long journey. She stopped a student walking past and said softly, "Please, my daughter, I'm looking for my son, Odogwu. He's tall, fair, and handsome." The girl smiled kindly. "Ah, I know him. He stays at Ivory Hostel, room 5. God bless you, my child," Mama said, clutching her basket and hurrying away. The hostel corridor buzzed with laughter and music. Mama Odogwu finally found room 5 and knocked gently. A young lady opened the door, dressed in a tight top and jeans. Her face looked familiar from the pictures her son had once shown her. "Yes? Who are you looking for?" the lady asked impatiently. "I'm looking for my son, Odogwu," the old woman replied with a proud smile. "I am his mother." The girl's tone softened for a moment, then changed. "Oh, you're his mum. Come in." It was Kemi. Mama Odogwu stepped inside slowly, placing her basket on the floor. The room smelled of body spray and perfume. On one side of the bed lay clothes and makeup, on the other were Odogwu's neatly folded books. Before she could even sit, Kemi wrinkled her nose and sniffed. "What's that smell?" she asked sharply. Mama looked confused. "Ah, maybe from my basket. I brought some foodstuffs for my son. Yam, gari, palm oil." "Please, Ma, keep it outside," Kemi interrupted. "I can't stand strong smells." The woman's eyes dimmed. "But my daughter, I carried these things all the way." Kemi waved her hand. "You can keep talking, but I won't have that smell here. Just put them outside before I die of choking." Mama Odogwu quietly carried the basket outside. Her hands trembled, but she said nothing. She returned to the room, still smiling faintly, hoping her son's girlfriend would at least offer her water. But Kemi simply picked up her phone and began scrolling through messages, pretending she wasn't there. Hours later, Odogwu returned from lectures. "Mama!" he shouted, his face lighting up. "You didn't tell me you were coming." He hugged her tightly, surprised and joyful. "Ah, you brought all these? Mama, you shouldn't have troubled yourself." Kemi forced a smile. "Welcome, Mama," she said sweetly, now that Odogwu was home. Odogwu looked at her. "Kemi, have you given Mama anything to eat?" Mama quickly interrupted. "No, my son, don't worry. I'm not hungry." She didn't want trouble. She couldn't tell her son how badly Kemi had treated her. After a few minutes, Mama stood up to leave. "My son, I just wanted to see you. I'm happy you're fine." "No, Mama," he protested. "You'll sleep here tonight." He escorted her to the park the next morning. On the way, she walked silently, her heart heavy. When they reached the bus, she finally spoke. "My son, I don't like that girl. She's not kind. She won't make a good wife." Odogwu was surprised. "Mama, why would you say that?" She sighed. "A mother knows what her spirit sees. There are many good girls in this world. Don't tie yourself to a proud one." He frowned slightly. "Mama, maybe she was just tired. You're judging her too quickly." Mama looked at him with sorrowful eyes. "I pray I'm wrong, my son." I pray I'm wrong." She entered the bus and waved at him as it pulled away. Odogwu stood there, confused but determined to believe his love was genuine. A few weeks later, final exams ended. Students celebrated, dancing around the campus with relief. Odogwu and Kemi posed for pictures, smiling, holding hands. "After this," he said proudly, "we'll face the world together." Kemi laughed. "Forever, right?" He smiled, not knowing that forever sometimes ends before it begins. The years that followed graduation felt like a dream come true for Odogwu and Kemi. They both left the university with high hopes and bold hearts, ready to conquer the world. Odogwu's brilliance opened doors quickly. Within months, he got a job with a major oil company. A dream position that came with good pay, a car, and an apartment in Port Harcourt. Kemi, on her part, joined a television station in Lagos as a junior news reporter. Her eloquence, poise, and striking beauty made her an instant favorite among viewers. Their love seemed unstoppable. Distance didn't separate them, it only added longing. They visited each other often, exchanged long late-night calls, and shared dreams of marriage. Every conversation ended with, "One day soon." 2 years after graduation, Odogwu made up his mind. He wanted to marry Kemi. To him, she was the woman he'd built all his dreams around. One weekend, he planned something special. He invited her to dinner at a rooftop restaurant that overlooked the city lights. There was music in the background, laughter in the air, and candles glowing softly between them. When dessert came, Odogwu stood up, reached into his pocket, and went down on one knee. The crowd gasped, and Kemi covered her mouth, tears filling her eyes. "Kemi," he said with a trembling voice, "you've been my friend, my love, my peace. Will you marry me?" She nodded, unable to speak. "Yes, yes, I will." The restaurant erupted in cheers. Strangers clapped and took pictures. For Kemi, it was the perfect fairy tale. But far away, in their different corners of the world, two mothers would soon have very different reactions to this love story. 2 weeks later, they traveled to Ibadan to visit Kemi's parents and seek their blessings. Kemi's family received Odogwu with open arms. Her father admired his humility. Her mother kept saying, "Ah, this one will take good care of our daughter." They ate, laughed, and blessed the union. "Your daughter is a good woman," Odogwu said warmly. "I'll do my best to make her happy." Her father smiled. "Then you already have our blessing, my son." Everything seemed perfect until it was time to visit Odogwu's mother. Mama Odogwu's small compound was quiet when they arrived. The scent of palm oil soup filled the air, and a rooster crowed somewhere behind the house. When the old woman saw her son, she beamed with joy. "My son, my eyes have seen you again," she said, hugging him tightly. But when she noticed Kemi standing behind him, her smile slowly faded. Kemi knelt down politely. "Good afternoon, Mama." Mama Odogwu nodded, but didn't reply immediately. Her eyes studied the young woman carefully, not her beauty, but her spirit. After they sat, Odogwu cleared his throat. "Mama, I've come to tell you something important." Mama smiled. "What is it, my son?" He took Kemi's hand. "This is the woman I want to marry." The room went silent. Then, slowly, Mama Odogwu's expression changed. "Over my dead body," she said quietly but firmly, "you will not marry this woman." Odogwu's eyes widened. "Mama?" Kemi gasped softly, pretending to be confused. Mama pointed a shaky finger at her. "I warned you back then, my son. That day she turned me away with the food I brought. I saw the kind of heart she carries. She's proud, and pride destroys homes." Odogwu looked at his mother in disbelief. "Mama, you never told me what happened that day. Why didn't you say anything?" "Because I didn't want to come between you," she said. but I won't sit and watch you ruin your life." Kemi's eyes filled with tears. She knelt before the old woman, crying loudly. "Mama, please forgive me. I didn't know what I was doing back then. I was young and foolish. Please don't destroy my happiness." Odogwu was moved. "Mama, she's changed. She's not that girl anymore." Mama turned her face away. A snake sheds its skin, but it's still a snake. The tension in the room grew heavy. Odogwu knelt beside his mother, holding her hand. "Mama, I love her. She's the woman I want. Please, just bless us." But the old woman shook her head. "I can't. Not this one." For days after that visit, Odogwu couldn't sleep. He loved his mother, but he also loved Kemi deeply. In the end, love won over reason. He went back to the village alone and said quietly, "Mama, it's either Kemi or no one else." The old woman sighed heavily. "Then I'll pray for your eyes to open one day. May God be your witness." She finally gave her reluctant blessing, not from her heart, but from a mother's helplessness. As Odogwu and Kemi drove away, he reached for her hand. "Don't worry, my love. Everything will be fine." Kemi smiled sweetly, but deep inside, something darker stirred. Because while Odogwu saw forgiveness in her tears, what truly lived in her heart that day was resentment. A seed that would grow into something far more dangerous than anyone could imagine. The wedding was like a fairy tale. Cameras flashed, laughter filled the air, and the newlyweds danced under soft, golden lights. Guests clapped and cheered, shouting, "Love wins!" Kemi wore a dazzling white gown that shimmered under the chandeliers. Odogwu stood beside her in a perfectly tailored navy blue suit, his smile bright and proud. Even Mama Odogwu came, though her face stayed solemn. She smiled faintly for the camera but said little. In her heart, she still feared what her spirit had seen long ago. When the ceremony ended, Odogwu and Kemi moved into a beautiful house in Port Harcourt. Life seemed perfect. They had cars, comfort, and a future everyone envied. Odogwu handled contracts for international oil refineries, and his career blossomed faster than he ever imagined. Kemi's career shone too. Within a year, she rose from a junior reporter to a full-time newscaster. Her face appeared on television screens across the country. She spoke with grace and confidence, always looking flawless. Her colleagues adored her, and she loved the spotlight. Fame became her oxygen. But deep inside that perfect picture, cracks were beginning to form. 1 year passed. There was still no cry of a baby in the house. At first, Odogwu didn't worry too much. But as months turned into another year, unease crept in. Every time he came home from work and saw the empty nursery they'd prepared, a quiet sadness filled his heart. He never said it out loud, but it was clear he longed to be a father. Kemi noticed, and it irritated her. She didn't want a baby yet, not now, not when her career was at its peak. So, secretly, she began taking contraceptive pills, hiding them inside her vanity drawer. When Odogwu asked if they should see a doctor, she brushed it off. "It's God that gives children," she said sweetly. "They'll come when the time is right." He believed her. He always did. One evening after work, Kemi met her girlfriends at a fancy rooftop bar. They laughed, toasted champagne, and shared stories about their lives. Her friend Lola leaned closer. "Girl, you're the most popular face on TV right now. You better not let any man slow you down." Kemi sighed. "But Odogwu keeps talking about children. I don't want issues." Lola rolled her eyes. "Forget that. This is your prime. Look at me. I didn't have a baby until my promotion came. Trust me, career first." Another friend added, "You're young, beautiful, and at the top of your game. Motherhood can wait." Kemi laughed. "You people are corrupting me." But deep down, she agreed. When she returned home that night, she opened her drawer, looked at the pills, and said quietly, "Not yet. I'm not ready to lose this figure." Meanwhile, Odogwu tried to keep faith. He prayed. He encouraged his wife. Sometimes he sat on the edge of their bed, watching her sleep, wondering if she still loved him the way she used to. "Mama would have told me to pray harder," he whispered one night, staring at the ceiling. "Maybe this is just a test." When he brought up the idea of medical tests again, Kemi dismissed it. "Odogwu, stop worrying. You're beginning to sound like those village mothers who measure a woman's worth by children. Please, I'm fine." He nodded quietly, though his heart sank. He didn't want to argue. He just wanted peace. But peace was not what destiny had planned. A week later, she received an exclusive invitation to a private networking event for elite broadcasters and sponsors. It was the kind of event that could open doors, a room full of decision-makers, media executives, and politicians. That evening, Kemi stood before her mirror in a glittering black gown. Her hair was sleek, her lips bright red, and her perfume filled the air. She smiled at her reflection, satisfied. She picked up her clutch, stepped into her heels, and whispered to herself, "This is my time. The world will remember my name." Then she walked out, leaving behind the silent house, and the man who still prayed every night for a miracle she was secretly preventing. The night of the networking event glimmered with city lights. Kemi smiled all evening, shaking hands with media executives and politicians, feeling like she belonged among the powerful. She laughed loudly, sipped her drink, and told herself she was exactly where she needed to be. But across the ocean of flashing lights and laughter, her husband sat alone at home, staring at the untouched dinner she'd left on the table. He missed her warmth, her laughter, and the peace they once shared. The following week, Odogwu received a call that shook him. His mother's neighbor from the village called, saying, "Odogwu, Mama is not feeling well. She has been complaining of chest pain and dizziness." Without hesitation, Odogwu cleared his schedule and drove home to the village that very morning. When he arrived, he saw his mother sitting weakly under the mango tree in front of her hut, her hands trembling as she tried to lift her cup of water. "Mama," he called, rushing to her. She smiled faintly. "My son, you came." He knelt beside her. "Why didn't you tell me earlier?" She shook her head slowly. "I didn't want to worry you. I know you are busy." Odogwu felt a lump in his throat. He helped her pack a few clothes and drove her straight to the city for proper medical care. At the hospital, the doctor's voice was calm but serious. "She has high blood pressure and elevated cholesterol," he said. "Nothing too dangerous, but she must rest, take her medicine regularly, and eat healthy food. No stress at all." Odogwu nodded. "Thank you, doctor." For the next week, Mama Odogwu stayed in the hospital while Odogwu visited every day after work. Kemi came once, dressed elegantly, phone always in hand. She stayed barely 10 minutes, scrolling and smiling at her screen, before saying, "She'll be fine. The nurses are taking care of her." Odogwu frowned but said nothing. When Mama Odogwu finally recovered, she thanked God and said, "My son, I think it's time I return to the village." But Odogwu shook his head. "No, Mama. You'll stay with us for a while. I want to monitor your health closely." Mama hesitated. She glanced at Kemi, whose face had already tightened. Kemi forced a smile. "Oh, that's good news." But in her heart, she was boiling. That night, when they went to bed, she turned to Odogwu. "Babe, your mother is better now. Don't you think she should rest in her own house? I mean, you hired a driver for her, and you can always visit." Odogwu turned to her sharply. "What are you saying? She's my mother. She needs care." "I'm not saying she shouldn't stay," Kemi said, trying to sound calm. "But you know how small this house feels when someone else is around." He sat up, frustrated. Kemi, this house has 5 bedrooms, and she's not just someone. She's my mother, my only family. Please, let's not argue. Kemi sighed, turning away. Fine. Do whatever you want. But in her heart, she whispered, I will make this place a living hell for her. The next day, Mama Odogwu arrived at their home. Odogwu welcomed her warmly and showed her to her room. He had even hired a nurse to check her pressure daily. Mama was grateful. My son, God bless you. You've done more than I deserve. Kemi stood at the doorway, arms folded, eyes cold. I'll let you both rest, she said quickly, walking away. Days turned into weeks. Odogwu often left early for work, sometimes traveling for days. Whenever he was home, peace filled the house. But once he left, the atmosphere changed. Kemi spoke to her mother-in-law with sharp words, answered her slowly when she asked questions, and ignored her presence in the living room. Mama noticed the change but kept quiet. She tried to help in small ways, cooking occasionally, folding laundry. But Kemi didn't like it. One morning, Kemi came downstairs and saw Mama sweeping. Who asked you to do that? She snapped. Mama looked up gently. I just wanted to help. I'm used to working. Well, this is not your village, Kemi hissed. Next time, let the cleaner do her job. Mama stood silently, her hands shaking, eyes misty. That evening, when Odogwu returned, he found his mother quiet and withdrawn. Mama, are you okay? He asked. She smiled faintly. I'm fine, my son. He didn't press further. He couldn't imagine what was really happening behind the smiles. But as days passed, he noticed the distance between the two women. Kemi barely spoke to his mother, and when she did, her tone was coated with sarcasm. He confronted her once. Babe, what's going on? You don't treat my mother warmly. Kemi laughed. Oh, please don't start. She's just sensitive. I can't pretend to be what I'm not. Odogwu sighed, too tired to argue. He kissed his mother goodnight and went upstairs to sleep, unaware that the quiet battle between the two women had only just begun. And deep inside Kemi's heart, bitterness continued to grow, waiting for the perfect moment to explode. The house had grown quieter. Odogwu was often away, traveling between rigs and oil fields. His job required him to spend weeks offshore, managing drilling projects across the Niger Delta. Each time he left, he kissed his mother's forehead and said, Mama, please take care of yourself. I'll be back soon. Then he would look at Kemi and add gently, Babe, take care of Mama for me. She would smile sweetly and say, Of course, love, don't worry. But the moment he left, her smile faded. Without Odogwu's presence, the warmth in the house disappeared. Mama Odogwu spent most of her days alone, either in her room praying or sitting quietly in the living room, watching the television she barely understood. Sometimes she would talk to herself softly. God, please bless my son, and soften that girl's heart. One Friday afternoon, Mama Odogwu decided to cook. The housekeeper had taken the day off, and the chef was away at the market. She missed cooking for her son, the smell of palm oil, the taste of her native soup that always made him smile. She tied her wrapper firmly, washed her hands, and moved into the kitchen. She wanted to surprise him with his favorite meal, ofe onugbu, bitter leaf soup with pounded yam. The house filled with the delicious aroma of simmering meat and smoked fish. Mama hummed an old folk song as she stirred the pot, her spirit light for the first time in weeks. Just then, the front door opened. Kemi walked in from work, her heels clicking sharply on the tiles. She dropped her bag on the chair and frowned immediately. What's that smell? She said aloud, covering her nose. She stormed into the kitchen and froze. There was Mama Odogwu, standing over the gas cooker, gently stirring the pot. Mama, what are you doing in my kitchen? Kemi asked sharply. Mama turned with a smile. Ah, my daughter, welcome. I just wanted to make soup for my son. He'll be back next week. I said let me keep myself busy. But Kemi's face hardened. Who gave you permission to enter my kitchen? She snapped. Mama, this is not a village hut. You can't just touch everything. Mama blinked, confused. My daughter, I didn't mean any harm. I only wanted to cook for Odogwu. Cook what? Kemi shouted, her voice rising. You want to choke me with all these smells? You think I don't know your plans. You're trying to make me look lazy. Mama stood still, speechless. Kemi marched to the stove, turned off the gas, and with one swift movement, she lifted the pot and poured the entire soup into the kitchen sink. The hot steam filled the air. The smell of wasted food hung heavy. Mama gasped softly, her hands trembling. Kemi, why did you do that? I spent all morning. Because this is my house, Kemi interrupted, and nobody cooks here without my permission. Mama's voice broke. My daughter, what have I done to you? I've tried to be peaceful. I've never raised my voice at you. Kemi laughed bitterly. Peaceful? You call it peaceful when you tried to stop me from marrying your son. I haven't forgotten, Mama. You called me proud and said I wouldn't make a good wife. She stepped closer, her voice sharp as a blade. You are right about one thing. I'm not a good wife. I'm the only wife he has. Mama Odogwu's eyes filled with tears. She whispered, You will regret this wickedness one day. Kemi hissed, wiped her hands with a napkin, and walked out of the kitchen. Later that evening, Odogwu called from offshore. Mama, how are you? I'm fine, my son, she said softly. Her voice trembled, but she hid the pain. Has Kemi been taking good care of you? Mama paused. She's doing her best. Good, Odogwu said happily. I'll be home next week. I miss you both. She forced a smile. We miss you too, my son. When the call ended, Mama sat quietly at the dining table. Her eyes wandered to the kitchen sink where traces of the soup still remained, checking a few pieces of fish, half-melted palm oil, and wasted effort. She sighed deeply. God, you see everything. Fight for me. That night, as Kemi walked past the living room, she saw Mama still sitting there, lost in thought. Mama, why are you still awake? She asked, pretending to care. The old woman smiled faintly. I was thinking about tomorrow. I'll go to church early, Kemi shrugged. Good for you. Just don't mess up my kitchen again. She climbed the stairs and disappeared into her room. Mama Odogwu turned off the lights and whispered, The same sun that rises on the wicked also rises on the good. But when it sets, only one finds peace. The morning began like any other, quiet, warm, and peaceful. Sunlight spilled through the curtains of the Odogwu residence, lighting up the marble floor and the framed wedding portraits on the wall. Kemi was upstairs in the bedroom, dressed in her silk robe, brushing her hair as she prepared for work. Her phone buzzed constantly with messages from producers and journalists. Mama Kemi, we need you at the studio early, one text read. She smiled at her reflection and whispered, Of course, I always deliver. Downstairs, Mama Odogwu sat on the couch, breathing slowly. Her chest felt tight, a dull pain throbbing behind her eyes. She reached for her wrapper and began to climb the staircase, one careful step at a time. At the top, she paused, catching her breath, and knocked gently on Kemi's door. Come in. Kemi's voice snapped from inside. Mama pushed the door open softly. My daughter, good morning. Kemi didn't look up. Morning, Mama. What is it? I'm having a headache, Mama said quietly. Do you have any painkillers I can take? Kemi sighed and dropped her comb. You people will just kill me with stress. I'm not a pharmacy. Mama smiled faintly, trying to stay calm. Please, just a tablet. I can't find mine. Kemi rolled her eyes and pointed toward a drawer. Check there. Maybe you'll find paracetamol. Mama nodded and opened the drawer. Her eyes fell on a small white packet. Not paracetamol, but contraceptive pills. Her heart stopped. She picked it up slowly, her hand trembling. Kemi, are you taking these? Kemi froze. Mama, please, mind your business. Mama's voice shook. So this is why there's no child in this house. You've been taking these behind my son's back. Kemi turned, her eyes cold. I said, mind your business, old woman. Mama took a deep breath, pain and anger mixing in her chest. Do you know how long my son has prayed for a child? You're mocking his love, and you're mocking God himself. Kemi laughed sharply. Mama, don't test me this morning. You don't know me. Mama pointed toward her. I will tell him. When Odogwu returns, he must hear this. She turned to leave, but Kemi's face darkened. If you tell him, she hissed, you'll regret it. Mama shook her head. You can't silence me, Kemi. Truth doesn't hide forever. In that moment, rage blinded Kemi. She rushed forward and shoved the old woman with both hands. There was a scream, then a terrible thud as Mama Odogwu's body rolled down the staircase. Thump, thump, thump. She landed at the bottom, motionless. Her wrapper tangled around her legs. Kemi froze, her heart pounding. Oh my God, what have I done? She hurried down, kneeling beside the old woman. Mama, please, get up. For a second there was no movement, then Mama's fingers twitched faintly. Kemi sighed with relief and whispered coldly, Good. You're not dead, but if you dare tell my husband what you saw, next time I won't miss. She stood up, breathing heavily, and walked away. An hour later, Kemi called the family doctor. Doctor, please come quickly, she cried into the phone. Mama just collapsed. I think she fainted. When the doctor arrived, he examined the old woman carefully. After a few minutes, he looked up gravely. She's alive, he said, but there's serious spinal damage. I'm afraid she's paralyzed. She'll need therapy and a wheelchair, and she may have lost some memory. Kemi gasped dramatically. Oh no, doctor, that's terrible. The moment he left, her expression hardened. She stared at Mama lying helplessly on the couch and muttered, Next time, learn to stay out of other people's business. She called the driver to help move the unconscious woman into her room. Mama's eyes flickered weakly, but she couldn't speak. Her world was fading, her memory slipping away like sand in the wind. That evening, Odogwu called from the offshore rig. Hello, babe. How's Mama? Kemi smiled into the phone, her voice sweet and calm. She's fine, my love. We're both fine. Good, he said. Tell her I miss her. I will, she lied. When the call ended, she sat quietly, looking toward the closed door of the old woman's room. A cruel smile touched her lips. Sleep well, Mama, she whispered. You finally learned where you belong. The sea was restless that morning. Waves crashed against the steel pillars of the offshore rig as men shouted orders, but Odogwu barely heard them. He was the lead contractor, overseeing a multi-million naira drilling project, yet his mind wasn't on the job. For days, unease had filled his heart. Each night he dreamt of his mother, frail, reaching for him, calling his name in a voice that broke his sleep. He tried to brush it off as worry, but the feeling grew heavier, stronger, unbearable. That evening he called his manager. Henry, I'm taking some time off. There was silence on the line. Sir, everything okay? I don't know, Odogwu said quietly. My mother's not been well. My spirit won't rest until I see her. Handle the contract while I'm gone. Yes, sir. Take care of your family, Henry replied. The next morning, Odogwu boarded the company helicopter back to land, praying the heaviness in his chest was wrong. Back at home, the air felt thick and lonely. The large house that once carried laughter now echoed with emptiness. In the living room, Mama Odogwu sat quietly in her wheelchair by the window. Her face was pale, her memory faint. Sometimes she remembered her son's name. Sometimes she only hummed to herself and stared at the sunlight. That afternoon, hunger stirred in her weak body. She looked around, saw no one, then slowly lifted her trembling hand toward Kemi, who sat on the couch, eyes glued to her phone. The old woman gestured toward the kitchen, then to her mouth, a silent plea for food. Kemi looked up, irritated. "What is it again?" Mama Odogwu gestured again, pleading softly. Kemi hissed loudly, tossing her phone on the chair. "Am I your maid?" she snapped. "You've been stressing me since the day you came into this house." The old woman blinked, confused and scared. "You think I married your son to become your caregiver?" Kemi shouted, stepping closer. "I'm tired of this nonsense." She gripped the wheelchair and shook it roughly. Then she slapped the old woman across the face, once, twice, then began to hit her again, shouting with every blow. "Next time you want food," she yelled, "go make it yourself." Mama whimpered softly, shielding her face with her hands. The front door opened quietly. No sound, no horn, no greeting, just the slow creak of the hinges. Odogwu stepped inside, suitcase still in hand, tired from travel. He froze. Before him, in the center of the living room, his wife stood, hitting his mother. The weak woman sobbed in her wheelchair, whispering his name between tears. For a moment, Odogwu couldn't breathe. His heart slammed against his chest. The bag slipped from his hand and hit the floor with a heavy thud. Kemi turned sharply at the sound, her face drained of color. She had been caught. "Kemi!" His voice thundered through the house like a storm. The old woman cried louder, trembling. Kemi stammered, Odogwu, it's not what you think." He charged forward, pushing her aside. "What am I thinking, Kemi? That you're beating my mother, the woman who can't even walk?" "She was disturbing me," she said weakly. "Disturbing you?" he roared. "She was hungry." He knelt before his mother, tears filling his eyes. "Mama, my God, what happened to you?" The old woman couldn't speak, but her tears flowed freely. He turned back to Kemi, his anger cold now, dangerous. "Why is she in a wheelchair? What did you do to her?" She fell," Kemi whispered. "I called the doctor." "You didn't call me," he cut in sharply. "I didn't want to distract you," she murmured. Odogwu shook his head slowly, eyes burning. "I left my rig. I left my work, because my heart told me something was wrong, and now I understand why." He turned to the doorway. "Driver!" he shouted. "Call the doctor right now." Then he faced Kemi again. "I have forgiven many things," he said quietly, "but the day you raised your hand against my mother was the day you destroyed everything we built." He knelt again beside his mother and held her trembling hands. "Mama, I'm here. No one will hurt you again." The woman looked at him weakly, a tear sliding down her cheek. She couldn't form words, but her heart remembered him. Odogwu stood, pointing toward Kemi. "The woman you despise is the reason you wear my name. And for what you've done today, Kemi, God will be your judge." He wheeled his mother slowly toward her room, his jaw tight, his heart shattered. Behind him, Kemi stood frozen, her arrogance gone, replaced by a fear that burned deeper than shame. For the first time, she realized the man she thought she controlled had seen her true face, and the silence that followed was louder than any slap. To be continued in part 2. What do you think will happen next? Will Odogwu uncover the truth behind his mother's fall? Share your thoughts below.